You're listening to All the Pieces, a podcast created to keep you informed and to highlight the great things we have going on at Mosaic and in the communities we serve. Let's take a look at all the amazing pieces here at Mosaic that together make us great. Now here's your host, Chief Medical Information Officer, Dr. Crystal Macaluso.
Hello and welcome to All the Pieces podcast. I am your host, Dr. Crystal Macaluso. I am the Chief Medical Information Officer here at Mosaic, also a practicing emergency medicine physician. I've taken back over hosting today, taking it back over filling in for Dr. Mohan, who's done a phenomenal job with our podcast since I last was host, and they've asked me back to host on a very interesting topic. We're going to speak today about artificial intelligence, or AI as we know it, and certainly how it's innovative and it's up and coming and how it's going to impact us here at Mosaic in the healthcare industry around the world. And so joining me today, very pleased to welcome Joy Paletti, our Corporate Information Security Officer here at Mosaic. And welcome, Joy. Happy to have you as your first podcast guest. You've never been on a podcast before.
No, I haven't. So excited to be here and talk about AI with you.
Awesome. Well, very pleased to have you. And, you know, certainly AI is something that if you could just even introduce the audience to what is AI and certainly give us a little information on what does it mean for them.
Absolutely. So we want to get outside of the technical terms and really talk about what it means for day-to-day life. Everybody's hearing about it all over the news. Everyone's doing it. So artificial intelligence is basically the intellectual ability for machines and software to provide human-like responses based on information that they have in their systems. So these machines are constantly learning based on data that is fed into these systems, and they are using that data to then give responses, make decisions, and help humans make quicker decisions or do work quicker, more efficiently. So that basically is what artificial intelligence is, just in simple terms. It can be a lot bigger than that. It can be used, people have heard of ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. Those are things that just your everyday, maybe at home or at work, you might want to use. But then when you think about healthcare, there are so many new technologies coming out to really gain efficiencies in healthcare to help physicians and clinical staff become more efficient in their workflows. So when something new like this comes along in technology, we get excited about it, but we also have to do things in a very well thought out way. And so here at Mosaic, we took a artificial intelligence task force approach. And last summer, when AI was all the rage and we had folks here at Mosaic saying, hey, I want to use ChatGPT. And so we knew we had to make some quick decisions and start really communicating what our approach was going to be on that. And so being in cybersecurity, I really worked to not say no, but to say yes, but. And so in this situation, we had to say, yes, we understand AI is important and we want to support the organization to work more efficiently, but there's some risk. And we've got to really understand what that risk means for Mosaic and make sure we're really well thought out with how we introduce these solutions. So what we did is we formed a task force with folks all across the organization. We have clinical leaders, financial, supply chain, legal, compliance, cyber, IT. We really used a lot of folks that had already come to us, so we knew they were already interested. So we're like, hey, come serve on this. Guess what? We're going to volunteer you for this task force. And let's start talking about it. What are the use cases? How could we use it? What are other organizations our size and scale doing? So last summer, we formed the task force, and what we did is we communicated out to the organization that today we are going to block the use of ChatGPT and other similar type of technologies just because it was too risky. We didn't know enough. And there was the biggest risk is when you know that our patient data could be exfiltrated out. And so what you don't want is you don't know the facts that you're putting into these AI systems. Where is that data going? Where is it stored? And so our top priority is patient safety and the protection and privacy of our patient data. And so we wanted to be very cautious and well thought out. So that's why we blocked it to start.
Sure.
But we didn't want to say, okay, we're blocking it and we'll get back to you later. Instead, we immediately started that task force and we started talking about what would make sense for our organization. And so that's when we started gathering the use cases, and we have a process where they can bring their use case to cybersecurity and we'll review it. And based on, is there sensitive data? If there's not sensitive data and they wanted to use a ChatGPT-like functionality to help simplify their workflow, then we would work with them to put that exception and allow that access. I do want to say, though, there is a lot of responsibility on our caregivers. When we give them that freedom to do that, we have something here at Mosaic called the acceptable use policy.
Okay.
And that means it is my responsibility as an employee here, as a caregiver, to keep Mosaic data secure. And so because I am held to that, I need to make sure anytime I am putting information into a system outside of Mosaic that I know that's not sensitive proprietary information. So we really make sure we carry that message to them when they're doing these, getting these exceptions to the policy. So we have those, but then we had providers and we had other use cases coming to us. Really, we were seeing the industry start to just explode with opportunity in the clinical space of gaining all sorts of efficiencies. And I know you have a vested interest in that.
Oh, absolutely.
And there have been a few different ways that you already have been engaged from a clinical perspective. And so I think you're going to talk about that today. And so this task force meets on a monthly basis, and we talk about those new up and coming technologies and how we could leverage them. And some of them are technologies we already own today, but we're not using that AI capability. So we're going to start talking about, can we safely start using it? And some of them are new to our organization, so we're evaluating them. So again, we know there's benefits, but we also know there's risk. So we just need to have those conversations to make sure we're balancing it out.
Yeah, no, and I think you've done such a great effort just to get the task force up and going, because as you mentioned, just how much this has exploded in just the last year, and how it's going to continue to grow and grow. And it's, new technologies are always going to be coming out. And, AI, I've heard a quote that, it's the best or the worst thing that's happened to humanity. It'll be to be determined.
Right.
And there's certainly a lot of, trying it out and seeing if it's working. But I think even your task force was quite interested to find out that we had already been using AI here for even years. One of the things we've had here is rapid AI to, for our stroke patients to identify quickly large vessel occlusions. We've had that in place for several years, and we use that on all of our stroke workup patients. And so there's all sorts of use cases for imaging modalities, and how do we look at the radiology studies and see how AI could help detect things that are very subtle for the radiologist eye. And so can we leverage those capabilities? And certainly the possibilities are endless there. I'm really excited about today. The irony of our filming our podcast today is that today we are going live with a product called DAX, D-A-X, DAX Copilot. It's a Nuance product that we get our Nuance Dragon Medical One to do speech to text, but we're now using DAX AI, which is an AI assistant to help providers, our physicians and APPs, document. Right now it's only available in the outpatient setting, and we're going to be piloting it with 20 physicians and APPs across the system, across many different outpatient specialties. And even so far today, reports have been so positive that this is life-changing, and just how quickly the notes are getting generated from just simply recording the conversation between a physician and a patient. And so it's really interesting and just so mind-blowing to see how the things that really, physicians or the clinicians spend a lot of time, at a computer and not a lot of time with the patient. Can we free up their time from the tasks so that they have more time for their brain to work, to take care of their patients, that they can spend more time communicating to their patients? Other use cases you've heard about are, physicians even just looking up or having ChatGPT give me 10 exercises on hamstring stretches for my patient, and then they just copy and paste that into patient education. So where can we use AI for patient education? I mean, it's
huge. It's really, the possibilities are endless. And so one thing I'm hearing you say is there's time efficiencies with more administrative type tasks. And those, to me, there's a lower risk there, because having AI summarize your notes or summarize your calendar or write a newsletter for you, that is gaining efficiency in your day so that you can spend more time doing the work with the patients. Where we have to be careful is where we are expecting AI to come up with a diagnosis for us, or to read an image, and we can't take everything at face value, because at the end of the day, your brain is always going to be more reliable than the computer. We can't 100% rely on the integrity of that. And so we're going to have to really work with educating our end users and the folks that are using these to make sure they know, okay, this one is more of an administrative thing. I feel pretty confident that the output has integrity, whereas this one, I really, as a provider, as a clinician, I need to make sure I review those results and put my blessing on it and put my signature on it. And so those are the different flavors that we're talking about, and the really a huge range of risk that goes along with that.
Absolutely.
And I will tell you guys, we are looking to bring a ChatGPT-like capability into Mosaic. The way it's going to be different for us is we're not going to use the publicly accessible ChatGPT. We're going to bring it into our four walls. That means when you put data in, it's just Mosaic data going in and Mosaic data coming out. It is not using learning from other organizations, and our data is not going outside of these four walls.
Right.
But wouldn't it be great if you had something for your day-to-day to help with administrative tasks, where you could use a functionality like that to summarize notes, or to summarize information for you, or to make you more efficient in meetings, or in, just like I said, more of the research. If you're doing tax research, if you're in the finance department, if you want to do research from an HR, I mean, there's so many different capabilities that it can be used for, not just in the clinical space.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, back to your original point about it's not going to replace the human intelligence, right? Because there still is a human element that is absolutely needed and will always be needed for patient care. The rapid AI that I mentioned, actually, recently the AI did get it wrong. And,
really?
I'm on the phone, and I've never had that happen before. I've been, using it for many years in the emergency department, and the radiologist calls me and says, this is weird, it's not really fitting. And I'm like, well, this is weird because it's not fitting the clinical picture. The neurologist is calling, and we're like, well, I think the AI is wrong here. This is truly what the read is. And so it doesn't replace, but it is a useful tool if used wisely to help you be efficient, but then not dangerously, because just even the doctors that are using the DEX today, you absolutely still should review your note. You absolutely should edit your note and make sure that it documents appropriately the visit you had with your patient. And so it requires that human eye still to ensure that there's, quality and safety measures in place. But the possibilities are endless, and I think that that's the key, is what your task force is doing, is making sure that those guardrails are in place and remain in place for this to be sustainable, for our organization to really tap into the capabilities of AI.
Absolutely.
So, other things I think that are up and coming with AI that I do want to put a plug in for is Epic also is working on AI directly within Epic. And so they have some things already embedded within Epic, such as their sepsis predictive model, and so using some predictive analytics. But there's other things coming down the pipeline. They do patient summaries for you. So instead of you spending hours digging through a patient's chart, the AI can look at that patient's chart and provide the physician or the nurse or anybody with a quick summary, even just a summary of just that day, a summary of all time, a comprehensive summary. So things like that are just really impressive. Or Mike Poor, our CEO, he went to our Epic user group meeting last year, and he came home just so excited about in-basket responses and how AI can help draft in-basket responses to patients. And the studies have shown that these in-basket responses are actually more empathetic than the physician responses actually were. So it's interesting.
Some emotion baked in there.
they bake in some emotion for sure. But that's all in development. It's coming down the pipeline. But again, just making sure that when we are weighing these capabilities, that we're going through the task force, going through to make sure that we have the guardrails in place. So
absolutely, everything is so cutting edge. We don't want to be the first people to use it. We want to make sure that we let some of the kinks get worked out. We see where the risks are. I mean, we've even seen our federal government come down with certain regulations for healthcare on how to use AI. It's getting a lot of visibility, and both the benefits and the risks in any group that you speak with. It's not everybody's just plugging it in all over the place. I think people are going forward with a fair amount of caution, but also exciting. I don't even think we've seen half of what it's really going to be capable of doing.
No, I agree. So tell me, just on a realistic kind of mindset, like how does a person, just somebody that's employed at Mosaic and they are in finance and they have this idea, how do they go about getting this idea vetted through the AI task force? What would they do?
Oh, that's a great question. So on our shared service site, we have a form to submit a security exception. And so it's a data security exception form that you fill out specifically for the use of AI. And when you fill that out, it goes to cybersecurity. And cybersecurity has a team that includes compliance as well as cybersecurity to review the request and make sure from a risk perspective that it meets our requirements. Okay. And then after it's approved, we also ask that caregiver to sign an attestation form saying that they will use this capability responsibly and that they are using it for the data that they explained they were using it for, and
Sure.
it's not going to go out of scope. So we are really trying to keep some accountability there. So that is the process. You submit the form, cyber reviews it, and then they communicate back if your exception has been approved or rejected.
Yeah.
And then cyber is always communicating back to the task force what we're seeing. So as we see things come across our desk, we're then feeding that over to the task force so that they're aware of what the organization is asking for.
For sure. Well, and I think to operational people, it gets overwhelming when you say AI, and it's like, can we just get some of the basics with our IT done first? And
Right.
certainly there's just a lot. And so how do we, more on the IT side, how can we be business partners with operations to kind of start highlighting to them the possibilities out there? Because I think they feel overwhelmed if they're out just on their own trying to figure out, how can I help improve finance, or how can I help improve lab, and what exists out there? So how can we as an IT organization help the business partners kind of understand what even exists out there?
So I think for us, it's about our network of understanding what other healthcare organizations our size and scale are using, and really digging into those areas and bringing ideas to the organization instead of them having to go find these things. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, and we want to pilot some of these things in a real controlled way first. And we can't say yes to everything, but we're really trying to create that list so we can say, where do we want to put most of our time from a priority perspective? And where will we get the biggest bang for our buck? And where can we find some end user satisfaction for just our basic caregivers who want to use something like a chat GPT? So we're trying to look at all the benefits and the risks and prioritize it, because we can't get everything in at the same time. And to your point, we really want to make sure our environment can support this technology in a way that's really effective and efficient. So we have to be well thought out.
Absolutely. Well, what is the difference? Like, how do we communicate this out to patients? Like, how do you see, we're using AI in a clinical setting or even a non-clinical. What does that communication look like for patients or for our caregivers?
Oh, that's a really good question. I guess to me, if providers want to have those conversations with their patients about where they're using AI, I think it would really alleviate any concern that the patient had if the provider said, and by the way, I use this, but I always double check. I don't want you to think I'm just using artificial intelligence to treat you.
Right.
It really shows how much we still need that expertise of the provider, and making sure we're not fully dependent on a machine to make decisions. So I think it's just really wise to have open and honest conversations about it,
Yep.
so that your patient isn't worried about, is my doctor even putting any time into this?
Right,
So I
absolutely.
think you've got to just keep making it personal, and talking about how you can use it for a benefit, but it doesn't take over for the expertise of the provider.
Well, and the goal is, if we're using this technology, that the patient will start to recognize the benefits themselves with seeing their doctor spend more time in conversation with them and spend more time educating them and just
Absolutely.
communicating. And really, just back to the DAX AI that we're using, you're speaking more out loud. So you're even speaking your examination out. And so the patients are like, well, what does that even mean? And so the patients might have a little bit more, questions, but also they gain more knowledge in that. And so I think that there's just a lot of benefit to it. And the doctors, today even are, as I was rounding, it's, hey, I'm just using this to help me do my notes faster.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple thing. I need to use
have the
this. My
conversation.
notes are challenging. I want to make my notes done faster,
Right.
and then I get to spend more time with you. And so
Absolutely.
it's things like that. And then if we can get notes done faster, can we get more patients seen so that we can improve access to patients across our communities and so
Right.
forth. So
Right. I think it's our responsibility to dig in and find these opportunities and these ways to make caregiving even more effective and efficient.
yeah, and then how we can improve the lives of all of our patients around
Absolutely.
the region with it. So it's
right.
exciting times, very exciting times. Well,
I
do you
agree.
have anything else on AI to discuss, to bring up? I think you've done a great job for our task force and appreciate all the work you've done for it.
Yeah, it's a team effort. I say that all the time. Cybersecurity is not just a team of cyber technicians protecting the company. It is a team sport, and I truly appreciate the collaboration of the task force, both clinical and non-clinical, to bring these ideas. I mean, I'm not the expert on it, so we're just here to kind of team up on it, talk about the benefits, talk about the risk, and it's really a journey. So it's how do we kind of walk through that at a pace that we can keep up with what's going on out there and not fall behind, but also we don't want to be the first folks to do
Yes.
it and to trip on any kind of big issues that could be impactful for our organization.
Yeah, and I think our partnership with Mayo also helps with that. I mean,
Absolutely.
we often, join the Mayo webinars, and how's Mayo doing this? Just to kind of let them
Let them be a step ahead.
Exactly,
That's
just
right.
just a tad.
Just a
But I
tad.
mean, we are innovative. This DAX that we're doing, I mean, we are one of the first that are doing it directly embedded within Epic. That's exciting.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's
And
very
so,
exciting.
we are innovative. We are trying our best to meet the needs of the business and certainly roll out AI cautiously so that it is used effectively. So I'm excited that we have you on the team to help keep these guardrails in place so that we don't go crazy.
That's right.
as it continues to explode. And who knows, even 5 years from now, what is
where
it
will
even
we
going to look
Yeah.
like? It's
we'll
crazy.
be having a totally different conversation, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely, and how it's going to change healthcare and how the care I provide my patients and how all the physicians and nurses provide care for patients. It's really, really interesting times. So in light of using ChatGPT, I did not put in an exception for this, but I did ask ChatGPT to tell me an IT-related joke. So I do have one of those. It's
Okay.
one of my podcast things I do.
Okay.
My last podcast with Dr. Mohan did not land very well. It was in the fall, and it was a terrible joke, so he did not laugh. But ChatGPT, so you can blame ChatGPT for this
Okay.
joke, but here's the joke. Why was the computer cold? Got anything?
No.
It's because it left its windows open. So that's about the same
Okay.
response I got from Dr. Mohan.
It left
So
its windows open.
It left its windows open. So on that note, I
I was
appreciate.
going to say it was because it wasn't patched, but
Oh, that's
see,
too much cyber.
That's too cyberish.
That's too techie.
Okay, I'm
That's,
sorry.
No
See?
end users are going to
I'm not
understand.
funny either.
It wasn't
ChatGPT
patched.
wins that one.
Well, I like to end on a joke. And so I appreciate the time you've taken to join the podcast, and happy to have
Absolutely.
you leading the charge with AI and the task force and all the great work you have. So if anyone has any questions on AI, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. Reach out to me or my team anytime. We're happy to support. Thank you for having me on. I love the partnership that we have just to really support the organization.
Yeah, it's been great. Awesome. Well, thank you. Until next time, I'm Dr. Macaluso.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of All the Pieces. Missed a podcast or interested in more information about any of our topics? Visit Connected to access the resources you need to be informed. Interested in having us cover a specific topic or giving us feedback? Send us an email at myepic@mymlc.com. We'd love to hear from you.